The small, tight community of Doraville, Georgia is rocked by a shocking revelation. Carrie Harris, a highly respected 31-year-old food scientist, experiences an unimaginable turn of events at the office, deeply disturbing coworkers and residents. What happened to Carrie Harris? What happens when love becomes fatal? This is the Fatal Attraction Podcast with The Evil Within.
She had a blossoming career.
She was up for that big promotion.
She was on the fast track in the company.
With a love life to match.
The question of marriage had come up.
She kept striving and setting goals.
Until her life is cut short by a vicious attack.
Coworkers were absolutely shocked.
They heard the screams.
She's on the floor, bleeding out.
Detectives struggled to identify a suspect.
She was loved dearly.
She had a great relationship with people.
Who could have committed such a horrific crime?
But detectives will soon discover that this kind of evil lurks just beneath the surface.
They think, well, yeah, he's a real nice guy.
I helped you.
Something was wrong. I felt it in my core.
He had created this other side of him.
This guy's really off his rocker.
Where you go?
June 26, 2008. It's a busy Thursday lunch hour in Doraville, Georgia, a cosmopolitan suburb on Atlanta's sprawling perimeter.
Doraville is an older suburb outside of Atlanta, and it's a flourishing immigrant community.
On any given afternoon, you'll find people convening for lunch at their favorite ethnic restaurant.
But while most of their colleagues are out grabbing a quick bite, several employees at one local company have gathered inside their conference room.
Today we're having a lunch meeting at the office for a few of the employees.
It was a food processing lab that manufactured all types of additives for different types of food.
But they're only a few slides into the PowerPoint presentation when a piercing scream rings out.
Everyone takes off to see what's going on.
The scream came from Carrie Harris's office.
Carrie was the company's quality control manager, and she was one of the few people in the building at the time.
It wasn't unusual to see Carrie working through her lunch.
But no one in the office ever expected to see Carrie like this.
Oh my God!
Originally from Memphis, 31-year-old Carrie was the youngest of 6.
We all loved her because she was everyone's best friend. She was one of those individuals from a very early age that you knew was destined to do some amazing things with herself.
She always wanted to achieve more, and so she just kept striving and setting goals and expectations for herself. And she wasn't going to stop until she achieved them.
She graduated in the top percentage of her class, and she was pursued by many colleges all over the nation.
Carrie chose Alabama A&M, where she majored in food science.
Before she even went to college, knew that that's something that she wanted to do.
Carrie was always one of those people who was always intrigued by figuring out how things worked.
Carrie was a very picky eater. Once she read a package and realized what was in the package, she would not eat it. Because a lot of the stuff that she saw, she was like, who eats this?
Before organic was a thing, Carrie was organic.
And I think that drew her into the world of working as a food scientist.
After college, Carrie had her pick of jobs.
A lot of companies was getting in touch with her.
She would go on to land her dream job as a quality control specialist for a big agribusiness firm in Atlanta, Georgia.
But while the company was only a small part of a large multinational corporation, the division where she worked was more like a second family.
Everyone welcomed her to the company.
There was even a coworker who baked a cake welcoming Carrie to the office.
Wow, that's so nice of you.
I just wanted you to feel at home.
Her work ethic also quickly earned her respect around the office.
Carrie was well loved by her colleagues.
Thank you, Craig.
She was truly dedicated to her work.
She loved doing what she did.
Everyone could see that she was on the fast track in the company.
But Carrie's professional life wasn't the only thing taking off. She had also found love with a man named Max McCullough.
He was actually a person that she knew from college. They just ended up, through other mutual friends, reconnecting in Atlanta. She felt like it was a good match. And I thought that he was a good person for her.
But which would make it to the next level first? Carrie's career or her relationship with Max?
The question of marriage and is that something you're interested in had come up.
But her main focus was on pursuing her master's.
Her plan was to get a master's while she was still working.
After she completed her master's degree, she was up for that big promotion.
She was about ready to take over North America for her company, for the quality control.
So she would be traveling a lot. We're talking U.S., Canada, and Mexico.
She was living her dream.
But now that dream has become a nightmare.
Carrie's coworkers were absolutely shocked to find her on the floor, bleeding out with a knife in her neck.
Carrie's horrified coworkers quickly call 911 to get help.
Police and EMTs are on the scene in minutes, but it's too late.
There was no reviving Carrie.
But now it's up to homicide detectives to uncover who was behind the deadly attack that cost Carrie her life.
As you can imagine, people are hysterical. They're shocked.
No one had actually seen what happened. None of Carrie's coworkers can describe the appearance of the suspect.
But what Carrie's coworkers do tell detectives raises an immediate red flag.
Well, there's been some strange things going on lately.
Carrie started noticing weird things were happening.
She went to her office and noticed that many things had been moved around.
She had that feeling in the side of your neck that like somebody's watching you.
Carrie was starting to think that she might have a stalker.
Will secrets be revealed as detectives enter the picture? Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
31-year-old Carrie Harris was on the verge of having it all.
Carrie had a lot of major things that were going on in her life. She had just finished off her master's degree. At work, she was up for a promotion because of the degree that she had finished off, and she was in a very serious relationship.
Things were going just as Carrie had planned.
But now, Carrie's coworkers have just made a horrifying discovery.
There were employees down the hall in a lunch meeting and suddenly heard blood-curdling screams.
They find Carrie's body on the floor, sprawled out with a knife in her neck.
Her coworkers immediately called 911, but when the EMTs arrived, they pronounced Carrie dead on the scene.
DeKalb County detectives arrived soon after responders to begin cataloging the evidence.
When the investigators enter Carrie's office, there are a couple of things that they noticed. First of all, of course, they noticed the knife.
The knife was like a butcher knife from a kitchen. The knife was stuck in her neck very forcefully.
There doesn't seem to be any defensive wounds on her arms or her hands.
It was sudden. She didn't see it coming.
Detectives believe she may have been sending a fax.
Her back was turned towards the door when someone came in and stabbed her.
Detectives first consider the possibility that Carrie's killer could have wandered in off the street.
Being lunchtime, there weren't many employees at the office.
Carrie's office was near the front door.
But the vicious wound to Carrie's neck suggests her murder was personal.
Once that artery snap in your neck, it's a wrap. You're going to bleed to death. That artery goes straight to your heart. So if you stab somebody there, you meant to stab them.
Who would hold such a grudge against someone like Carrie?
Detectives hope the murder weapon can give them a clue.
You're always going to check weapons for fingerprints, for DNA.
Leaving the CSI to collect the evidence, they turn to Carrie's coworkers.
Unfortunately, most of Carrie's coworkers had been out to lunch at the time the murder occurred.
A couple of colleagues were in a meeting.
They heard screams.
But the people that were at the office during the attack didn't see the assailant.
None of them could imagine who would have wanted to hurt Carrie either.
She was well respected by her colleagues and was loved dearly.
My sister was always that person that was willing to give up herself to help others.
Carrie had the type of personality that would draw you into her. She would stimulate you through conversation.
However, coworkers also tell detectives she had seemed on edge lately.
What do you mean by on edge?
Well, there's been some strange things going on lately.
About a week before Carrie's murder, she went to her office and noticed that many things had been moved around. Carrie first thought it was the cleaning crew, but they hadn't even been in the night before to clean.
That alone wasn't too worrying, but according to her coworkers, more odd things started happening.
On her way home one night, she noticed that a car appeared to be following her. It wasn't until she decided to pull into a local police station that the car behind her decides to drive away.
The individual that was following her drove on and sped past, so she didn't get a good description.
Coworkers tell detectives that the incident had left Carrie rattled.
She actually started taking different routes home than her normal way that she would go.
Then, a few days later, another strange incident occurred.
When she was trying to leave work, her car wouldn't start.
What now?
Fortunately, one of her coworkers was around.
Looks like a cable came loose. That's all.
Oh.
She had a new battery that she just recently had put in the car.
All right, try it now.
Oh, okay.
This was a pretty easy fix, but Carrie just couldn't shake the suspicion that someone had done this on purpose.
She started to wonder, did she maybe have a stalker?
Detectives thought if they could find Carrie's stalker, they probably were going to find who killed her.
But detectives are no closer to identifying them.
And this promotion, anyone have a problem with that?
Well, things had gotten a little awkward between Carrie and Glenn, her supervisor.
She was actually going to be in a position that was over her boss that she had already.
However, according to coworkers, her boss couldn't have done it.
Her boss at the time was in Kansas City doing this cross-company meetings where they were talking about products and product development.
However, one coworker says her boss wasn't the only one who took issue with her upcoming promotion.
Detectives learned that Carrie's boyfriend, Max, was not at all happy about an upcoming promotion that would send her around the world.
They had been getting pretty serious, and Max had been talking about the two of them settling down together.
A promotion would send her away from him.
Do you think this is what made Max angry?
Well, I don't know if I go that far.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Although now detectives wonder just how far he might have gone. After seeing a photo of Max and Carrie on her desk, detectives pull the building's security footage.
There's cameras all over the place.
But while there's no camera covering the door to Carrie's office, there is one at the entrance to her building.
Surveillance footage does show a male figure fleeing from the building immediately after the attack.
Since he's running out the door, the footage does not show a clear view of the man's face.
They noticed he did look pretty similar to Carrie's boyfriend, enough so that they kind of wondered maybe that was Max.
Will secrets be revealed as detectives enter the picture? Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
Security cameras at Carrie Harris's workplace have captured what detectives believe to be her killer fleeing the scene after the murder.
The man seen in the video shared a similar build to Carrie's boyfriend, Max.
Later that afternoon, detectives bring Carrie's boyfriend in for a round of questioning.
I can't believe she's gone.
He appeared extremely distraught about her death.
We were talking about getting married.
She had just come back like a few weeks before that from a trip to San Diego with him, and she had definitely felt that was the direction that things were going.
However, as Carrie's coworkers suggested, the couple's relationship wasn't perfect.
Max admits to investigators that he wasn't thrilled about her promotion.
He said that even though he didn't like it, he had accepted it because he knew that it was good for her career.
Have you ever thought about it? Not really.
You ever follow her? Sneak into her office?
What do you mean?
When detectives confront him about the man in the security footage, Max swears it isn't him.
Is that you?
He was at work in downtown Atlanta during the time of the murder.
That's not me.
Did you take a lunch break or something?
Yeah. I left at like noon. I was back in like 20 minutes.
With Atlanta's crazy traffic, that would have meant there's no time for him to get to Doraville in time to commit the murder.
What's more, Max suggests that there's someone else detectives should look into.
He ends up telling detectives that Carrie would sometimes mention a guy at work acting pretty strange.
Okay, so what do you mean by strange?
I don't know. She said that something wasn't right about him.
This guy have a name?
I don't know. She just called him the Cake Man.
Detectives aren't entirely sure what to make of Max's story.
A nickname like Cake Man, it actually sounds pretty made up.
However, before looking into Max's claims and his alibi, detectives try to make contact with Carrie's family. Unable to get a hold of Carrie's mother, detectives leave a vague but troubling message.
My mom calls me up, freaking out. Says, hey, on the answer machine, detective from DeKalb County is calling up the message on there for us to call back. Something's happened. She's been in an accident.
Worried about his sister, Jason Harris makes the call.
Homicide Detective Brian.
Excuse me?
The guy told me it's just some homicide detective. And the moment he said that, I knew. And I was like, what? He says, yeah. Today, your sister Carrie was attacked at work.
Oh my God.
After that, it just... I don't remember the next minutes that happened after that, or what I said or what I did.
Carrie's brother eventually recovers his composure.
I said it was Craig. And he paused for a minute.
This is the first time detectives are hearing the name Craig.
Craig? Craig who?
I don't know his last name. She just called him Cake Man.
Carrie's boyfriend hadn't known Craig's name, but her brother did.
She had told me about the cakes and the pies and that stuff.
That's not all Carrie had told her brother about Craig, though.
She thought he was sweet at first.
He was a nice guy that cared. He'd bring you soup if you were not feeling well. And just, there's like nice things like that for you.
He was good at his work. He got along with coworkers.
He would always be neatly dressed. He was always well-groomed. In fact, several of them had tried to set Craig up with friends of theirs, and a few of them had actually tried to set Craig up with Carrie.
Despite that, Carrie had made it clear to her coworkers that she wasn't interested.
She was dating someone.
But apparently, the message never got back to Craig.
We tried to ask her out to lunch or something, and she declined. She said when it comes to work, it's a professional environment. She was never rude about it anyway.
According to Carrie's brother, Craig still didn't get the message.
Craig's advances toward Carrie never stopped. It wasn't one of those things where every single day he was at her office or sending her flowers, but there was definite spurts in which that happened.
At one point in time, he gave her a Palm Pilot. She asked him to stop. She was very clear with Craig that she was not interested in having a relationship with him.
Jason says that according to his sister, the gifts did stop, but not Craig's inappropriate behavior.
He would creep up to her door where you have that feeling in the side of your neck that like somebody's watching you, and she'd look up and she would see him there.
So when strange things started happening to Carrie at work, Jason says she suspected Craig.
Stuff being moved around her office, her being followed, it freaked her out.
And then there was the day her car wouldn't start.
Magically, Craig was there.
She couldn't help but wonder if he had something to do with it being disconnected in the first place. It seems like he was setting himself up to be a hero.
Jason says Carrie had been reluctant to tell her coworkers about Craig's behavior.
She had made it clear that she wasn't interested in dating him. And even then, they were still kind of semi-encouraging. Well, you know, she don't want to. He's a nice guy.
It was as if nobody had seen the darker side of Craig, but Carrie did.
And soon after the incident with her car, Carrie acted on her suspicions.
She actually filed a complaint with Human Resources.
The Human Resources Department had taken her seriously.
They gave Craig the directive, like, unless there's something happening in your building or you directly need to come over and deliver something to Carrie, you don't need to be in this building.
She didn't feel like she was in any imminent danger.
But had Carrie actually been in far greater danger than anyone imagined?
I felt it in my core. Craig was the person who had done it.
Will secrets be revealed as detectives enter the picture? Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
Detectives investigating the murder of Carrie Harris have just learned that shortly before her death, the 31-year-old quality control manager filed a complaint with Human Resources about her coworker, Craig Armstead.
She went to HR about it and told them that, that this made her feel uncomfortable.
Carrie Harris did everything that she could the right way.
When detectives meet with the company's human resource manager the next morning, she confirms that Carrie had filed the complaint.
They asked him not to have direct contact with Carrie, and if he needed to do so, to only email her.
These workplaces, they're pretty strict on sexual harassment, so I think she felt all right.
However, Human Resources reveals that Carrie had recently filed a new complaint.
The day before she was murdered at work, she found a camcorder in the women's restroom.
She noticed a dim red light shining from inside a basket filled with feminine products on the vanity.
She opened it up and saw the camera. It was planned in a way to where someone was actively watching women go to the restroom.
It was actually discovered because the battery failed in the camera, which caused a red light to flash.
But while Carrie found the camera the day before she died, she didn't file the complaint until the morning of her murder.
She found it right before 5 p.m., and at that point, it was just too late to contact Human Resources.
The next morning, Carrie heads to HR to make a formal complaint. She takes the pouch with the camera that she found and submitted everything.
Less than an hour later, Carrie was dead.
Investigators think this is far from a coincidence.
According to Carrie's initial HR complaint, Craig had been sneaking around and spying on her.
But does that mean he was the one who planted the camera?
Who had access to that bathroom? You got the office cleaning guys that come in at night. You don't know who put that camera in there.
Suspecting it's most likely Craig, detectives decide to pull his criminal record.
They wondered if he had had any troubling charges in the past.
He actually had committed other crimes where he was a peeping Tom.
They also learned that Craig had killed before.
The incident happened 20 years ago in New Jersey.
The young woman that he was dating at the time broke up with him.
Craig was not very happy about that.
He followed her home from work, beat her to death with a hammer, and then buried her body in a shallow grave.
Despite the brutality of the crime, the defense was able to secure a deal, and Craig pled guilty to manslaughter.
He received a 10-year sentence, but only served 5 years.
He was young, 16 or 17, and they don't like giving teenagers life.
In addition to that, there was concern at the time of Craig's mental health state. It is our belief that those two factors contributed to Craig receiving a reduced sentence in that case.
After Craig's release, he'd relocated to Atlanta.
People wonder, why is this killer walking around and getting jobs? When you run a criminal history, an employee only can get so much, especially if that record been expunged.
He was a juvenile when he committed the crime, so it did not follow him. He was able to start a brand new life.
One where no one suspected he was a killer.
Craig was actually liked by his colleagues and his co-workers, seen as good at his job, and seen as a kind, intelligent individual.
But now detectives are wondering, had this seemingly kind and intelligent individual killed again?
He becomes the prime suspect.
After uncovering Craig's criminal record, detectives head back to the food processing company, only to discover that Craig hadn't come into work that morning.
The police put out what is called a bolo, be on the lookout, for Craig Armstead's car.
They also request additional surveillance footage, this time focusing on Carrie and Craig's movements in the hours before the murder.
One of the first things they were able to see was Carrie actually carrying a bag with the camera in it a little after 9 o'clock. And she was heading from her building over to the Human Resources Department.
And HR was in the same building that Craig's in.
Craig even appears in the security footage soon after Carrie enters the building.
The video of the facility, it shows him walking past her and seeing her with the bag.
This leads investigators to believe that this is the moment that Craig realized that his camera had been discovered.
And the surveillance footage leaves little doubt about what he did in response.
It's just unbelievable.
A few minutes after Carrie walked back over to the building, Craig followed.
The cameras actually picked up Craig entering the break room.
Moments later, he's walking out with a knife in his hand.
Will secrets be revealed as detectives enter the picture? Stay tuned for more of the Fatal Attraction podcast.
Detectives investigating the murder of Carrie Harris have just uncovered surveillance footage that shows the minutes leading up to her brutal stabbing.
Craig is seen walking into the break room. A few moments later, he's seen walking out with a knife in his hand.
The knife that you see in the video is similar to the knife that was ultimately used to kill Carrie.
Combined with Carrie's complaints to Human Resources about Craig's harassment, there was more than enough evidence to justify an arrest warrant.
The authorities won't have to look very far for him either. At around the same time, patrol officers pull over Craig's car less than a mile from the office.
The police recognized they had a bolo for this vehicle.
This guy jumps out and sits down on the curb and starts, it's the only one y'all looking for.
Craig immediately confessed to having killed someone. He did not name Carrie, but said that he had killed someone.
That's his mental state at the time. He was out of it.
Once at the station, detectives take their time to gain the suspect's trust.
They don't have to talk to you. So when he came to the interview room, and I wanted to make him as comfortable as possible.
I'm scared. Don't be scared of it. What are you scared of? You scared somebody's gonna hurt you? What are you scared of? I'm scared if I hurt somebody.
Craig seemed to be really confused about who he hurt.
Do you know this person? Your boss?
He tells detectives that he killed a man named Bill, who was his boss.
He was all over the place. He thought he stabbed the manager, Bill. Come find out that Bill wasn't even there. The guy called in sick.
Detectives keep pressing, hoping Craig will eventually confess to Carrie's murder.
Have you killed anybody before? I was in New Jersey. In New Jersey? Yeah.
Detectives already knew about the previous manslaughter charge in New Jersey, but they were pretty surprised when he walked in and just so readily admitted to everything.
You remember who it was that you killed? Maybe it was my ex-girlfriend. Your ex-girlfriend in Jersey? Yeah. She deserved that.
I'm not a doctor or psychiatrist, but I interview thousands of people. And this guy got some mental issues going on big time.
Was that the first time you had the urge to kill somebody? I don't think so.
Craig tells detectives he's tried everything to control his violent urges.
I prayed and I did good things. I would do good things for people. I would bake cakes. I would bake cakes for people. And I would bring it to them and do it for free. I just bake cakes for free and it made me feel good.
According to Craig, there was just one thing that kept a lid on his violent tendencies.
He tells investigators how the only thing that really worked was being a peeping Tom.
Craig said he knew it was wrong, but he had to stop himself from hurting people.
I bought this camera because it's the only thing that makes me not want to hurt anybody. Okay. And I said, I'll do this. I won't hurt anybody. I won't hurt anybody, but I'll do this. This is not so bad. Okay. What do you do, okay? I put it in the bleeding room.
The women in the office kept a basket in the bathroom.
They would bring tampons and pads, and they would keep them in the restroom, which is where the pervert put his pouch. And he kind of cut a hole in the bag so that the lens could pick up what was going on.
And then I would come back in the evening and I would get it. And I would take it home. And I would look at it. Okay. But still photo, video? The video. That helped?
But according to Craig, that wasn't enough to stop him from killing Bill.
It was me. It was so mean. It's like it was so mean.
Craig claimed that Bill constantly teased him about a coworker.
He kept making comments about me and this woman on my job. That me and her were together but we weren't together.
Detectives ask Craig the woman's name, but they already know the answer.
That's the girl that he was talking about.
At that point, the detectives figured it was time to confront Craig with the truth.
Carrie's the one that's hurt. Not Bill, it's Carrie. Yeah. Carrie's dead, man. Oh my God.
Once detectives informed Craig that Carrie was dead, he lost it completely.
What did you do to Carrie? Carrie pissed you off?
Despite the apparent breakdown, Craig refuses to fully acknowledge what he'd done.
You want Craig to tell me what happened to Carrie? It's not a dream, this is true. No, it's not a dream. Craig is not a dream. I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to tell me why did she die? Why did you kill her?
What Craig says next introduces a strange new twist to the story.
He began talking about someone made me do it.
Well, tell me about it. What's his name?
Craig says that he's another part of it.
I call him Frank.
Questioned by detectives, Craig Armstead has more or less admitted to killing his coworker, Carrie Harris.
As a detective, you see killers all the time. You try not to pass judgment, but he did kill somebody.
Although during his confession, Craig blames the murder on an alter ego he calls Frank.
He stabbed her with a knife. The silver blade.
Craig says that Frank is just a part of him, that he doesn't know how he works, just that he's another part of Craig.
It was like I was a puppet on the string. You know, it's like I couldn't.
It sounds crazy, but could it be true?
I thought he possibly had split personalities.
Or is Craig's story about Frank simply supposed to sound crazy?
Craig's supposed mental health issues were partly why he got away with killing the ex-girlfriend over 20 years ago.
Craig had some mental health issues, and because of that, Craig was given a significantly reduced sentence. And it was our belief that having committed that crime, having used that defense before, upon killing Carrie, Craig immediately started thinking insanity and immediately started crafting his defense, which is why he started talking about Frank.
At the end of the interview, Craig is booked on murder charges, an outcome that leaves many of his coworkers in disbelief.
They was devastated once they heard all that.
People liked him. Craig carried himself as a nice person.
But as Craig's coworkers and Carrie's family soon learned, it was all a facade.
This guy, in 1990, he took his ex-girlfriend and beat her to death with a hammer.
When I found out about Craig's past, everything clicked for me. I mean, he was like this crazy predator. He should have never been able to see the light of day again from that situation.
It was like they was given an opportunity to commit more crimes.
As the prosecutors predicted, Craig enters an insanity plea when the case goes to trial.
He did his best to look the part inside the courtroom.
He's just sitting there with his head down, rocking back and forth, making noises. It was unbelievable. Not one time did any coworker say they saw Craig sitting at his desk with his head down, rocking back and forth, making noises.
He calculated this out, and he had a plan on how he could get away with it again.
We were determined that he was not going to get away with murder the second time.
In their opening statement, the prosecution portrays Craig as a desperate man who knew he was about to be unmasked.
There is security footage from the business that shows Craig following Carrie. He is immediately aware that the camera has been found.
This causes Craig to panic.
The gig is up, so to speak.
According to the prosecutors, Craig had responded by carrying out the deadly attack on Carrie.
He saw an opportunity when Carrie was in her office and everybody was in a meeting.
He secured the murder weapon.
He got it from their office kitchen.
When he walked into that office, he intended to kill Carrie.
Her back was turned towards the door.
He stabbed her in the neck, right then and there.
And he fled the scene, fully understanding what he had done.
The defense counters by claiming Craig was not in his right mind when he attacked Carrie.
They say that he suffered from intermittent psychosis, which basically says that when he was dealing with Carrie, he was in a wrong mindset and made him believe that Carrie was a bad person and she had to be eliminated immediately.
But the prosecution fires back, playing part of Craig's taped confession aloud in court.
I don't know if I'm making an excuse for what I'm doing. It's just my way of justifying the evil inside me. Just call him Frank.
Frank, from the beginning, we believed was Craig being a manipulator.
When the jury returns with their verdict, they roundly reject Craig's insanity defense.
Craig was convicted.
He and Frank are serving life.
The outcome is little comfort to Carrie's family.
He took and stole a light that was there for the world, for good, for making things better for everybody.
Our sister's in the ground, but you still living, you still breathing. In my mind, he got away free.
And while nothing can bring back Carrie, her family hopes her story will save others from the same fate.
Corporations, train your people. Teach them the true definitions of what harassment is.
Don't be afraid to say, I'm concerned about this person. Don't be so concerned about how they're going to feel. Do something.
Do everything that you can to protect yourself and each other from the Craig Armsteads of the world.
Call the police. That's our job. You don't inconvenience us. We want that stalker, so he won't hurt nobody.
Evil can disguise itself as love, keeping true intentions hidden. Stalking is a serious crime. When we recognize stalking behavior, it is crucial to act immediately and support those who are being targeted. We can help combat this very serious crime by acting swiftly and alerting authorities. Carrie Harris, a cherished, vibrant, intelligent, determined individual with a love for life and exploration, gone too soon. She is missed and will forever be cherished by her loved ones. Coming up on the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast.
She had overcome addiction, found a new life and a new love.
She was doing a lot of things that she had never got the chance to do.
She loved him a great deal.
She really saw a bright future.
But now the darkness has swallowed her again.
She just disappeared in the middle of the night.
A Quad City family's life changes forever with a fateful phone call. What happened to beloved grandmother, Robin Young? Tune in to the next episode of the Fatal Attraction Podcast. We will see you in the next episode.